Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Group of Five deep dive. And if you're hearing that music, that means college football season is here. The bands are playing, the bets are flying. You've made it all the way through the offseason. We laid out lots of breadcrumbs for you with conference previews for all 10 FBS conferences. You can go back through the podcast feed and listen to those at your leisure. And additionally, we put so much on YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube. See all of our content there, our shorts, our full episodes. Subscribe, comment, all of it helps. And speaking of commenting, if you could go ahead and comment on our podcast feed, we'll go ahead and give out some merch this year, have some giveaways throughout. So 5 stars, please. Subscribe, unsubscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. You know how we do here at BBOC. All right, Ianello, we've made it. College football season is here. We got real bets, real bullets flying. How are you feeling with just hours to go before kickoff?
I feel phenomenal. I'm going to say it one time, and I don't want to hear this word again for 5 months. We are officially putting an embargo on the word realignment. I don't want to hear that word again for 5 months. Let's play some football.
Yeah, I am absolutely pumped. G5 lands, wasn't unscathed. The AAC ends up being an organ donor for the Big 12. Some major programs moving there, sliding in some Conference USA teams. But a lot of our pride and joy, the Sun Belt, the MAC, the Mountain West, pretty much untouched. There was a will they, won't they, Texas two-step situation with San Diego State. All of that, I agree. Let's put it on the sideline. Let's get to some picks. But before we do so, let's get into who are our guys this year. When this podcast was launched, the Group of Five deep dive under the Big Bets on Campus banner, we were a Bailey Zappi first on board conductor situation. We were waving people in, and he hit, cult hero status. So we're hoping this year to do the same. Let's go with 3 guys each. Who is your first for, quote unquote, your guy from G5 land?
Yeah, like you said, I think that's something that this podcast has been very good at, planting our flag. Zappy. A lot of them moved on. We lost our baby boy, Jay Kaner. We lost Holton Ahlers after. I mean, he's not really a baby boy. He's like 40. But we got to get some new guys. So we want to get our listeners knowing. Here's the guys we're planting our flags. Our new kids. I'm starting off Preston Stone. I've talked about SMU all offseason. It is officially the Stone Age in Dallas. I'm riding with Preston Stone all year in my SMU future.
I'm going to match your quarterback with another one. We're going to go Diego Pavia, New Mexico State. It's been a while since New Mexico State has been playable from a gambling perspective. They were red hot down the stretch last year. I know they played a lot of tin cans. They beat Valpo to get bowl eligible. I don't care. They went to the Quick Lane Bowl, and he was the MVP of that game. He scores 13 total touchdowns in their last 3 games. He's a New Mexico legend in the state. He's from Albuquerque. He went junior college there in New Mexico, won a JUCO national title like Cam Newton. And now here he is resurrecting this dead program with Jerry Kill as his coach. I love the storyline. And Tim Beck, not that Tim Beck from Coastal Carolina, another Tim Beck who is a legend at the D2 level, is his offensive coordinator, guru. He really got him going down the stretch. And I love what the Aggies have this year, particularly against a slate of teams that they should be winning 6 or 7 games. Like this slate maybe is the easiest in all of FBS football. We'll get to them for our week 0 picks. But Diego Pavia, we love you. This is a Pavia podcast. I can't wait to see him ball out on Saturday against UMass. All right, number 2, who you got?
Yeah, this is a bit of a, he may not even be the true starter. I don't care. He should be. Burt Emanuel, Central Michigan quarterback. I've said it before. I'm a simple man. I see one thing. I make a good first impression. When he came in against Buffalo and ran for 3 touchdowns in the second half, I decided he's the next coming of Michael Vick, maybe even Jesus Christ. Who's to say? Can he throw the ball? I'm not sure. But in the final 3 games of last season, he had 466 yards and 7 touchdowns rushing. He is an absolute human electric factory. He can legitimately score every time he touches the ball, and he takes a snap. So pretty good odds there. I'm all above it. Fire up chips.
So Ianello and I put together our G5 All-American team. You can catch that online at actionnetwork.com or on our award-winning app. And I'm going to go ahead and grab our all-purpose player on the first team, and that's Frank Gore Jr. from Southern Miss. The guy was phenomenal last year. He did everything for the Eagles, rushing, receiving, passing. He racked up 1,800 total yards, 13 total TDs. He had 8 games of 20-plus touches. And the end of the year, I mean, I just talked about Pavia being on a heater. Like, he put him to shame. Last 2 games, 528 rushing yards and 3 TDs, including that bowl game romp over Rice. Southern Miss returns 75% of their offensive line starts. He's going to roll again. They are one of my favorite sleepers to win a conference in all of college football. I think they're going to be a live dog in the Sun Belt West, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them in the SBC title game. So I'm going with Frank Gore Jr. as my second pick. All right, wrap it up here, Ianello.
Also, you forgot to mention, Frank Gore Jr. is so elusive. He literally stiff-armed his auntie mid-interview. That's how hard he is to bring down. I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. There's been a lot of offensive talk. Another guy from our G5 All-American team. You know, I got to rep Connecticut every chance I get. Jackson Mitchell from UConn. Might be the best linebacker in the G5. He was on our All-American team. I believe he was our defensive player of the year going into the year for the G5. 140 tackles last year, 4th in the country. Did everything for UConn. 9.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. He's a beast. He's a freak. He's all over the field. Probably could have gone pro. Came back because just the opportunity to live in Connecticut for one more year was too good to pass up. Jackson Mitchell, go Huskies.
I'm going to finish with a quarterback who's not yet been named the starter, but the upside is incredible here. Malik Hornsby at Texas State. Colin Wilson's probably moving his chair a little bit closer to his speaker because he's a former Arkansas quarterback, 4-star out of high school, led a 5A program in high school to the Texas State championship game. Unbelievably fast. 10.78 and 100-meter dash, which for those of you not in the track and field world, anywhere between 10.5 and 10.8, that's elite speed. And now he's plugged into G.J. Kinney's offense that made Lindsey Scott Jr., another big program transfer who went down to the FCS level, a superstar last year. He won the Walter Payton Award, 71 total touchdowns at the FCS level last season for Scott Jr., and the receiving core in San Marcos is ready to go. Ashton Hawkins, Bo Corrales, Joey Hobart, who's the son of Billy Joe Hobart, the quarterback of the 91 Washington Huskies, one of the greatest college football teams of all time. This receiving core and Hornsby can make magic happen if their offensive line can come together. Lots of new pieces there, a big transfer portal team. But if he gets the job, I could see him blowing up by, let's call it mid-October once they get into Sunbelt play and really get to carve up some of those weaker defenses. Love Hornsby.
I could be making this up. I do think he was named the starter.
I believe, I've been searching the last couple days. I know that Kinney was basically saying that they had both earned the right to start. So I'm hoping you're right. I hope you're a newsbreaker here. Move over, Brett McMurphy. We got our own sources in Mike Ianello. If Hornsby's the guy, he's absolutely my guy for this season. Speaking of this college football season, it's almost here, and I have some old habits that will never die, like betting every single Week 0 game. But I want to tell you about a new habit that I'm getting into, which is Caldera Lab Skin Regimen. It's simple and just takes 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute at night. You're already in the habit of brushing your teeth, so why not add another habit on top of that and take care of your skin, move it up a notch with Caldera Lab. So the 3 steps are simple. You got the clean slate, which is face wash, the base layer, which is a moisturizer, the good, a night serum that reduces fine lines, dark circles, and puffiness, and one that I absolutely love is the Icon Eye Serum. I put it under my under eyes. It's already getting me some compliments, looking a little bit younger, which is going to be critical because we're going to be up late watching some West Coast football before it is rest in peace there on the West Coast, Pac-12 after dark. So you want to make sure that you're looking your best on college football Saturdays and when you roll into those NFL Sundays. Like covering the spread against UMass, taking care of your skin is important and doesn't have to be difficult. 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute at night is all you need for better, more clear skin. And just for our audience, we have an exclusive offer. It is their best offer anywhere. So use code BBOC at calderalab.com and get 20% off right now. That's 20% off with the code BBOC at calderalab.com and make unforgettable first impressions that lead to those magic words, "You'll look younger." Get 20% off at calderalab.com with code BBOC. All right, back to the show here. This is our second little preseason before we get to Week 0 segments, and it's us drafting our group of 5 teams to make the New Year's 6 bowl game. We did this last year, Ianello, and it was pretty simple. We were saying, you got 5 teams, I got 5 teams. If you win, I will buy you a bowl pack with, a hat, a shirt, a quarter zip, all the official swag, the gear for your team that makes it. And if by some random chance one of our 10 teams doesn't win, we'll just throw it to Mitchell. He doesn't have to have skin in the game. Well, Tulane went from 3-9 to the Cotton Bowl, beating the Heisman Trophy winner. So Mitch is his drip is looking good. He's got the Tulane swag, the quarter zip. This year, I'm hoping that we don't run that back because now we have two producers, David Payne at Matt Mitchell. So it's starting to get pricey for us. So hopefully we don't whiff on this one. Why don't you get us started with your pick from the G5 to go to a New Year's Six bowl game?
Like I said, I've been riding the ponies all off season. I'm not stopping now. Give me SMU. Stone Age. I'm riding the ponies all the way to the Cotton Bowl. They have a pretty manageable not manageable non-con, but like I said, I've talked about it. They should be favored in every conference game. They're probably going to lose to Oklahoma, but I like the fact that they have TCU on the schedule because if they beat TCU, that's a good Power 5 win. Who knows what TCU will be, especially early on, replacing so many starters. That could springboard them up into the G5 combo conversation. So give me SMU.
I know this is going to pain you. I'm taking one of your guys, Dr. Frank Harris, in his 7th year in San Antonio. That's UTSA. The Go Roadrunners, meep, meep. This offense is still ready to go. I understand that they lost Will Stein as their OC to Oregon, but I love Traylor. I love what he's built at the G5 level. They've given him a contract extension. The receiving is still phenomenal here for UTSA. So I really believe in what they're capable of this year. And defensively, they get their quarterback of their defense back, Rashad Wisdom. He could be the difference maker. If they can move into that just mediocre conversation defensively against the pass, I think they're going to have a chance to make it a three-peat. Conference USA 2 years ago, Conference USA title last year, and then AAC in year 1. I would love to see it from the Roadrunners. So I'm going to go and hitch my wagon to a great offense and a great quarterback. All right, who do you have as your 3rd overall pick?
Yeah, that was going to be my next pick. I'm trying to think, when's the last time a non-AAC was the representative? Was it? I mean, Western Michigan, I know, was in it. Was that the last non-AAC? Was the Western Michigan team under PJ Fleck?
I feel like that could be. I'll do a quick search here of Group of 5.
Well, assuming that's the case, I'm sticking to the AAC. I was going to take UTSA, but I'll take the AAC favorite. I'll take Tulane. They burned us last year. I'm not going to let it happen again. They play Ole Miss in the non-con, but realistically, South Alabama, if we both like them to win the Sun Belt, that could be a good game on their resume if they get that win. And then, like I said, they're the favorite in the American. So if they can run the table again and get back to win the AAC, I like their chances to be right back in that game.
You brought it up early in terms of non-conference schedule and how it relates to SMU and an opportunity to get a marquee win. Boise's got 2 shots at it. They go to Seattle and they play Washington in the opener, and then they host UCF with their new Big 12 affiliation at home on the Smurf. Talon Green, to me, was one of the most underrated players in the entire country. Like, when Boise got off to a slow start, they get rid of their play caller. There was some dysfunction. There was a feeling that they could move on from their head coach. I think that's where the national narrative left. And then they go ahead and they just run roughshod over the Mountain West Conference last year. They get to the title game. They do all these great things. And Talon Green was an incredible dual threat. The Air Force head coach called him Vince Young-esque. So at the 4th overall pick, I'm going to go ahead with a quarterback getting those kind of compliments and hope that their new play caller OC doesn't ruin what made him special last year, which was breaking out of the pocket, extending plays, and making huge, gash running plays with his legs. So I'm hoping that Boise sticks with that script because Ashton Jeanty at running back and George Helani, that's one hell of a backfield. So I'll go ahead and hitch my wagon to the Broncos and hope that they split, those 2 against UCF and Washington and get a marquee win out of it. All right, where are you going next?
Yeah, like they probably win the Mountain West, and that's obviously the first step of this is win your conference. So I'm going to go with the team I just mentioned, who I think we both think wins the Sun Belt. I'll take South Alabama. I think there's a chance they played Tulane in the opener, and they can be favored in every game after that. And that Tulane game's winnable. If they get their revenge on Troy, they have a pretty good slate here. I think they could rack up some wins and be right up there in that conversation.
I'm going to go with a team that I don't necessarily love. I think that they underperform vis-a-vis their talent as it relates to their conference, and that's the Toledo Rockets. They have by far the most talented roster in the MAC. They bring back DeQuan Finn. They have a really nice offensive line and running back room. I think that they're going to be able to overwhelm a lot of teams, but can they avoid that sleepwalking moment? And most importantly, because they're going to be up against, these AAC programs that, as you mentioned, have been knocking out so many New Year's Six Bowl invitations over the years. A program like Boise State, who has national notoriety, you got to get some, big wins. You You got to go buck hunting. You got to have those trophy prizes up on the wall. They open with Illinois. That's your opportunity. Illinois is a winnable game. I believe they're a 9 or 10 point underdog there, but they have the veteran quarterback play to get it done. You win there, and then it's a question of, does Jason Candle keep this team focused for all 12 regular season games so that there's no letdown, there's no Bowling Green game from last year that rears its ugly head. I'll go with Toledo as kind of a value play here at 6 overall.
I like it. I'll go with the last conference favorite left on the board. Give me Western Kentucky. No Bailey Zappi, but Austin Reed lit it up last year. And other than they play Ohio State, other than that, they could go 11-1. I'm down on Liberty. So the Hilltoppers could go 11-1. If they can, not lose by 100 to Ohio State, they should end up ranked if they do that.
My next pick here comes with a big asterisk. Can they figure out defense? I don't know if Memphis can figure out defense, but offensively, they should have a really potent offense. Seth Hennigan is getting up there in terms of experience. This is his 3rd year as the starter. What they have in the running back room, I really like. I just want to kind of load up with as many AAC teams as I can, because I do think you have an opportunity not only to get those marquee non-conference wins, but even ranked wins within your conference down the stretch, where you're going to have, to your point, a Western Kentucky team that may have one regular season loss. How do you leapfrog them at the very end, getting to an AAC title game, playing a team that's ranked 16th, 17th in the country? So I'll go ahead with Memphis. I think they have a chance to hang around, be a thorn in the side of some teams here if they figure it out on defense. It's a big if, but I was between them and one other AAC team, so here's fingers crossed that you don't dip into the well one more time with your last pick.
Yeah, I know. There's one more AAC team. Now I'm gonna go with Coastal Carolina. If South Alabama doesn't win
defenses, I mean, Grayson McCall can't play both ways.
True, but if South Alabama doesn't win the Sun Belt, Coastal's got a good shot to do it. And I think too, when it comes down to, let's be honest, the college football, playoff ratings are a TV show, and it's hard to come out of nowhere and get on people's radars. Coastal is a brand name at this point. Grayson McCall is one of the most recognizable names in college football. I think that helps them a lot. I think if it's, how many, college football writers and fans can name South Alabama's quarterback, where everyone knows McCall. So it comes down to, if they're both 10-2, 11-1, Coastal probably gets ranked higher because it's Coastal and it's McCall. So I'll take the shots here for my last pick.
I'm going to take a shot on a name that used to be a G5 superstar, and that's Tom Herman. He's landed in Boca Raton, and he's leading the FAU Owls. And this team, to me, has everything it needs to kind of surprise and win the AAC. They got 16 returning starters. They're +7 in the net tarp. Hat tip to Colin Wilson for that. Their quarterback play could be great with Casey Thompson. They have a really good running back room, the wide receiving core with Wester. There's just a lot to like, but really just comes down to Herman for me. Other than his stop at Texas, which by the way, he went 32-18. It's not like he absolutely bombed out and it was an embarrassment. He goes 4-0 in bowl games. He just didn't get them to the college football playoff, which I understand that's the threshold of Texas, but everywhere else, he's been a superstar innovator on offense. Back to Texas State in the FCS, at Rice, transformed that offense. It was really the only time in the last 50 years that Rice has had a potent offense. Goes to Iowa State, orchestrates one of the biggest upsets in college football history, knocking off the 2011 Oklahoma State Cowboys, ruining their BCS dreams. Wins a natty at Ohio State with all their quarterback injuries, and then kills it at Houston. He's already done this in the AAC, took them to a New Year's Six Bowl, the Peach Bowl. They smashed Florida State. I think there's a great value play this late in the draft. What do you think about FAU? Is there just too much of a crowd in the AAC for them to get to the top? Or do you think there's a chance they get to the title game?
Yeah, that would have been my other pick. I was deciding between. I basically didn't want to take 3 American teams, but to your point, we kind of how many AAC teams did we take last year? I know we took UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and we whiffed on Tulane. So I think the more we should have just picked the whole AAC, and then whoever wins that conference. Let's go one more round. I'll take Temple. You can have Charlotte. We'll cover all of our bases just in case.
All right, so that's our 10 picks there. I'm sure Mitchell and Payne are listening closely and basically kind of wrangling up all their MAC and Mountain West and Conference.
Who do you think they're most hitching their wagon to? Is it
I guess Fresno?
Air Force. Yeah, I was gonna say we've only had one Mountain West, so it's probably hey if my San Jose State future pays off, that's probably their best shot to hit it.
I
Is
mean,
the
I know that you're high on Jamie Chadwell in year two, but maybe it happens,
Liberty?
instantly, and Kaidon Salter, puts it together for
Yeah,
Liberty, the quarterback, another quarterback battle. Who's to say?
that's
Um,
probably the biggest. That's probably the best chance that we have who they have. I would think.
A programming reminder: Colin Wilson and Stuckey will release a day early this week, so their week zero preview will drop Thursday morning. And with the busy college football season finally arriving, we're all looking for some wholesome, convenient meals for the busy fall days to come. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, you'll eat well, and you'll stay on track with your healthy lifestyle of nutrition and round-robin underdog parlays. They are soon to come here on the Group of Five Deep Dive. With Factor, you can skip the extra trip to the grocery store. You can skip the chopping, the prepping, the cleaning up too. It's all so easy, but you still get the flavor and nutritional quality that you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat it up and enjoy, and then you're back to fading Trent Dilfer and the UAB Blazers. So head to factormeals.com/BBOC50 and use code BBOC50 to get 50% off. That's code BBOC50 at factormeals.com/BBOC50 to get 50% off. All right, we've set the table. We've also whetted some appetites with our friends over at Factor Meals. Let's get into best bets, baby. Let's get to what the people came for. We got real football on Saturday, the very first game, the Emerald Isle in Ireland, Navy traveling to play Notre Dame. I'm going to get it started here with my best bet. I like under 50.5. So let's do some housekeeping on Navy. Ken Niumatalolo out. Newberry in as their head coach. He brings Grant Chestnut over as their OC from their days at Kennesaw State. And Kennesaw State's running game, here's a quick stat from the FCS land. They finished in the top 3 of rushing 6 of the last 7 years. So Chestnut knows exactly how to add wrinkles to this offense to make them more potent, specifically in the short passing game. And Bill Wagner from the Capital Gazette, he does great work for the Baltimore Sun as well. He was recently interviewed, and I was listening in, and he was basically saying when the Navy offense got stagnant in the last 3 years, they're running the triple, and then they were going play action deep shots. They didn't have the receiving core, and they didn't have the accuracy from their quarterbacks to make that efficient. And because of that, the offense just couldn't hit those big plays. So what is Chestnut going to do? He's going to put tight ends on the field. He's going to do more short passes, more passes in the flats, flares, crossing routes to get a little bit more for the defense to have to keep in their mind and prepare for to cover the field horizontally. So I think what that translates to is less of a learning curve for their quarterbacks. They're not asking them to be threading needles, making 35-yard passes. Just hit a wide open guy in the flat for a 5-yard gain. And what that says to me is if Navy can get some more first downs, huge alert here, the new rules for college football. They're getting rid of the first down stopping the clock, except in the last 2 minutes of the first and second half. So what is that going to mean? Could mean that we're burning an additional 3 to 5 minutes off of every single game. And when you look at a service academy that potentially could be a little bit trickier in those third and manageable situations because of a new passing game, I think they're going to be able to play keep away in this game, at least early. Now, remember, Navy finished 125th in seconds per play last year, so this is already their preferred tempo. And when you pair it with what they have on defense, Navy, I understand, fell short under Niumatalolo in the last few years, but their defense really came to play. They bring back 9 starters from that defense last year that finished third against the run. They're up against a Notre Dame offense that wants to run the football. Estime is going to be their bell cow. And Jared Parker, their OC, when he was the OC at West Virginia, he just fed Letty Brown the ball over and over and over again. So I think it's a strength-on-strength battle. Notre Dame offensive line is very good. I just see longer drives on both sides here. And Collins' projection is calling for this to be 45 for the total. It's sitting at 50.5. You can argue about what those key numbers are between those two. I think there's a lot of value here. I'm calling Notre Dame 27-17, and I think it's going to comfortably go under. One little perk as a final aside, just a cherry on top here. If I haven't convinced you, Navy has a new kicker. So I'm hoping for a few shanks, maybe take some points off of the board that otherwise would have been some free points for the mids. What are your thoughts on this game? I know this is one that you had circled. I know that Navy has some juice on offense. Daba Fofana at fullback is back. He's a beast. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to get excited about in year one.
Yeah, I think your play leads perfectly into my play, which I'm taking Navy plus the points. It's 20.5 at BetMGM. I do believe there's a couple 21s out there. They've kind of been popping up, going back and forth. Obviously, I'd like 21, but I still like 20.5. Honestly, I would take 20. So if you can get the 21, great. If it drops a little, still take it. And you mentioned it. It's between, no one really knows what Navy's going to be. So sure, you can go watch, Kennesaw film, and you can try to guess how much they'll throw, what their offense looks like. But I think there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. It's kind of going to be hard to scout this Navy team. It's hard to know exactly what they're going to do on offense. You mentioned Notre Dame wanting to run the ball a lot, and that's kind of Navy's strength, is defending the run. You said it all with the clock rules and everything getting smaller. So, and Navy just in general, all service academies, these are good spots for them. Since in our Action Labs database, since 2005, Navy is 31, 19, and 2 against the spread as an underdog in non-conference games. That is 62% hit rate. They're 10, 4, and 1 as an underdog of more than 10, 5 and 1 of at least 17, and 3-0 as an underdog of at least 20. 2 of those came against Notre Dame. So just service academies as big dogs, I know Stocky talks about this all the time, is kind of an auto bet. And I love it even more. I don't auto bet them, but given the uncertainty around how to scout Navy, you mentioned the total's 50. You like the under. If that hits, how does Navy not cover it? You think it's going to be 40-10? Like, I don't. I think it's going to be, 28-14. So give me Navy plus the points. I like the 20. You can get the 21, even better.
Just a quick aside, what are your thoughts on Sam Hartman? For me, coming from the claw fence in Winston-Salem, like they made that offense perfectly tailored for him, but he had some really underrated receiving targets where Notre Dame has a lot of highly touted recruits that just haven't materialized yet. So in week 1 or week 0 in this case, I just don't necessarily see it all coming together with a new play caller. There's just too many unknowns for this to automatically click against a Navy defense that's actually very good, has a lot of experience, plays hard, and doesn't give up the big play.
Yeah, that's also part of it. So I am high. I really like Hartman. I think Hartman's awesome. I think he's the best quarterback Notre Dame's had in a while. But you mentioned it. It's his first game. They have a new offensive coordinator, and it's kind of, if you remember back to, when was it? Like, when did Reese leave? March-ish? Remember they had that weird situation where they were trying to hire Utah's offensive coordinator, but apparently there wasn't enough, donations at church that Sunday, and Notre Dame couldn't afford him. So they scrambled and hired, they promoted their tight end coach. And I don't know much about him, but tight end coach doesn't typically scream sling the rock around the yard. It kind of makes me to believe it's more bully ball and big meaty tight end. Let's run the ball and run 2 tight end sets. So I like Hartman, but I can't picture him coming out week 1 and just throwing the ball all over this Navy back end. I think more, like you said, they're going to lean on the run. They're going to try to ease in. They know they should be able to win this game without a huge sweat. So it's run the ball, control the clock, beat Navy by 14. Everyone goes home happy.
A reminder to our audience, BBOC is brought to you by BetMGM. This is the Group of 5 deep dive. And if you could subscribe, unsubscribe, comments. The comments are absolutely critical for us. We love to see that kind of engagement. Hopefully we can hop on throughout the season and on social media and interact with you. If you have any hot takes on our plays here in week 0, we'd love to hear it. All right, Ainel, how about back to you? We basically had a mind meld there on the very first game in week 0. Let's see if there's any friction between us with your second pick.
I mean, what better place to start the season than with a little action, baby? Give me Ohio plus the points. I don't. Hold on, bad radio. I gotta see what's the line at now. It was at 4. Now it's down. I think it's down to 2.5 now. I like a money line. I'll take any points I can get because I think it's a low scoring game. But give me whatever you got. It dropped after Curtis Rourke was officially announced, good to go, starter. I liked it anyway because I was kind of assuming that. So hopefully you got in early. Ohio was every gambler's darling last season, and I think they pick up right where they left off. The Maple Missile's back. MAC Player of the Year last year, 3,200 yards, 25 touchdowns, 4th in the country in yards per attempt. They like to sling it. Bangura's back at running back. He had 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen are back. Their top receivers are back. And on the other side of the ball, their strength, they weren't the best defense, but their run defense was really good. And that's what San Diego State wants to do the most. And that's kind of what they've always tried to do. They literally have a converted safety playing quarterback. I'm not exactly worried about him taking the top off the defense. And last year, they took a huge step back running the ball. They were 122nd in rushing success last year. And I think the Aztecs, we've always known them to be a great defense, great up front, pass rush. I think that takes a big step back this year. I also think they're kind of vulnerable in the secondary. And I mentioned it with Rourke. He can beat that. He can exploit that weak secondary, where that's also Ohio's weakness, and San Diego State can't take advantage of that. They don't have the weapons on the outside, and they don't have the quarterback who can take the top off the defense. So assuming Rourke's good to go 100%, which it sounds like he is, which is why this number has come down, I think Ohio wins the game. So I'm the type of person that loves to usually takes the points when I can get them, because, if they lose by 1, I'll kill myself if I have a money line. So it's like, give me the 2.5 points, but I don't hate a little sprinkle on the money line. I think Ohio wins this game.
I'm with you. I like the Bobs. I was on their money line when they're plus 145. I think they're down to plus 120 out on the market. Make sure to shop around for the best number there. I don't need the points. I am confident in
Whoa! No, thank you, sir. Keep your points.
Pro Football Focus selected 5 Bobcats for preseason All-MAC first team. Curtis Rourke, you mentioned. Bangura running behind a line that returns 75% of their offensive line starts is great. And then Sam Wiglusz, you talk about a perfect, running-oriented offense and then deep shot guy. He had 11 touchdowns last year. He was, the MAC version of Chris Carter. All he does is catch touchdowns.
He's so fast.
He's so fast. I love this team. I just want to see a MAC team. It's been a few years at least since the MAC teams really come out hot and played incredibly well in a marquee kind of non-conference game. And I want to see them do this. I understand that their front 7 lost a lot of experience and they were top 50 against the run last year. So that's going to be the focal point against the San Diego State team that does like to run the football. But their secondary could be much improved. And Maiden, he just doesn't impress me. He's a converted safety at quarterback, and I think he's going to have more on his shoulders this year. As you pointed out, the Aztecs, from a personnel standpoint, have taken a step back in their front 7. Much respect to Kurt Maddox, their DC. I think he's one of the very best in the country, but I think he's going to have his hands full in this game. So I'm on the Bobs right there with you.
So I don't think we're doing an official. Our longtime listeners will know every week we usually do a moneyline underdog parlay. I don't think we're doing an official one this year, but you're saying Ohio would be in it this week?
Oh, it would absolutely be in there for me this week.
Maybe pair them with a Jacksonville State, maybe something like that.
Something like that. There has been line movement there, so technically, the Gamecocks count in their first FBS game. But we can actually get to that as our additional comments, news, and notes here at the end of the pod. I'm going to go with my second best bet. I teased it up. Diego Pavia, my guy. They're hosting UMass in Las Cruces. Let me get started with a little weatherchannel.com here. The past week up in Amherst, Massachusetts, it's been downright lovely. Mid-70s, a little breezy. You know what the weather in Las Cruces is going to be for this game? 92 degrees with a heat index of over 100. Jerry Kill, defensive mastermind, is setting up a trap for this Minutemen offense. That was awful last year. They didn't even average 12 points per game. That was 130th in the country. They ran the ball a lot. Here's a little spoiler. They couldn't run it. 3.4 yards per carry, 103rd in the country. And now they're handing the reins over to a 3-time transfer in Tyson Pumachan. This team is no good. I understand that Don Brown defensively is going to make life difficult on New Mexico State. He's got some good corners. He's going to, Dr. Blitz is going to live up to his namesake and bring the pressure. But Diego Pavia is Mr. Improvisation. I don't even think I mentioned this. Pavia was an all-state wrestler. He had a scholarship offer from Nebraska. And for those not in the know, Nebraska is a national powerhouse in wrestling. This guy is tough as nails. He's sawed off. He's like 5'10". He's going to be breaking tackles and making wild throws. I love the Aggies in this game. And really the only argument, if you listen to Stuckey's best bets for the season, he was shitting all over New Mexico State. The defense lost so much, and they were lucky to beat, the crappy teams on their schedule. They have more crappy teams on the schedule, and it starts with UMass. And Jamar Budden comes in from Penn State. He was a 4-star guy. He's going to anchor that linebacking core. They also had Deion Wilson Jr. at defensive tackle from Arizona, Glinton at cornerback from Wyoming. These are all 3-star guys kind of plugging in, And Jerry Kill kept his coaching staff together. I listened to Conference USA Media Days. I listened to some interviews with him. He's now speaking from a place of confidence that this defense is going to be just as good as they were down the stretch last year. And offensively, under Tim Beck, the Pittsburgh State Tim Beck, they took that huge jump in the last 3 games of the season, and I expect more. Star Thomas at running back, Jones at running back, Pavia, like they're going to hit some big plays in the run game and open things up for their passing game. So you may be scared away because of that hook, because of, 7.5, and you figure these are 2 teams that historically don't win many games. New Mexico State's for real this year. They're going to be a bowl team again. UMass is far, far away from that with a lot of retreads on offense. So I'm going to go with the Aggies in Las Cruces.
Well, Calabrese. I was doing my research last night, and I wrote down lean New Mexico State -7.5 because I was iffy because I don't like going against Stucky. It's just something I don't tend to do as often because I don't think it's profitable to go against Stucky very much. But the G5 boys have to stick together. And as of now, it's Tuesday night. I'm looking at BetMGM, New Mexico State -6.5. Give me the hook on the other way. I'm locking it in with you. 6.5. I'll take it. You said it. New Mexico State was 5th in the country in explosiveness last year. They should get big plays all game here. And yeah, I have questions about their defense, but you want to know what I have answers to is UMass sucks on offense. They were 133rd in success rate. I'll be honest, I don't even remember how many teams are in college football anymore. It's hard to keep track.
That's all of them at this point. 130.
Is 133rd, is that how many there are?
That's right.
Well, then they were dead last, and that's not good. And while New Mexico State might have taken a step back on defense, I don't think UMass took a step forward on offense. So there's not much better to answer a question than to play UMass's offense week 1. And you mentioned it. I think they get enough big plays to cover the spread and pull away late. I wasn't going to take it at 7.5. I'll take it at 6.5. The G5 boys ride together. Suck it, Stucky.
All right, let's go through the cutting room floor, the games that did not make our best bet slate. Let's start with Jacksonville State hosting UTEP, a former darling of this podcast, here in their very first FBS game. I went ahead and bet it when it was Jacksonville State -1. I believe out in the market now they're actually catching points. I was a little bit discouraged that Zion Webb, their 7th-year starter, was actually named as the co-starter on the depth chart this week. Don't love that from Rich Rod. But what I do love is that, as Colin Wilson likes to say, this is a hot and ready offense, Little Caesar style. They come in, they were 5th nationally in rushing last year, 10th in scoring at 36 points per game. They're going to run that famed Rich Rod offense, the West Virginia Rich Rod, the successful Arizona Rich Rod. Anwar Lewis at running back is a stud as well. I still am on the Gamecocks here because I have questions about how much UTEP lost defensively. Praise Amalaway is one of our G5 All-Americans. I love him on the edge. But outside of that, I think everything is kind of trending a little bit closer to Jacksonville State here. And it's going to be a zoo. As I mentioned, very first FBS game. This has been a proud program that's won a lot of games at that level. They've been a playoff team. They upset Florida State a couple of years ago. Like, this is a team that's ready for the jump. And we saw it in the Sun Belt so many times. James Madison moves up. They start kicking ass. App State moves up. They do the same. I see something similar for Jacksonville State. I'm going to go ahead and take an offense with the veteran quarterback. Hopefully he plays. They also return 13 starters outside of him. 70% of their line starts. I like the Gamecocks here. What are your thoughts? I know that UTEP is a team we've been banging the drum for, our iron skillets. I don't know what they do out there in El Paso, but
pickaxes
onto the skillets.
Yeah, UTEP's a team I've always kind of been up and down on because I feel like they should be better than they are on paper, but they're frustrating. But what kind of sealed the deal for me, I took a shot at Stucky, so now I'll butter up Colin so that we don't start a war with the other podcast. But the two kind of main stats Colin always talks about being so important to covering spreads is finishing drives and explosiveness and big plays. UTEP's defense ranked in the hundreds in both of those categories: finishing drives on offense and preventing big plays on defense. So this Rich Rod offense is going to be able to pick up big plays. That's kind of what Rich Rod likes to do. And if UTEP's not able to cash in on their chances when they get in scoring position, I'm with you. I think Jacksonville State can win this game. So I took Jacksonville State as well. Not as confident to lock it up as my best bet. Obviously, +1, 1.5, kind of a coin toss game. But yeah, I kind of do like the idea of kind of tying that in with Ohio. Give you a nice big payout on 2 games that potentially could be kind of coin flippy. Get you a nice profit to start your season.
Next game is a frequent flyer mile special. Hawaii flying all the way to Nashville to play Vandy. My power rankings call for this to be exactly 17.5. That's what the market has. So it's a pass for me. There's lots of questions I have about this Hawaii team in terms of overall depth, in terms of protection for Schrader. I think he could be under duress a lot, but I'm just not comfortable banking on a Vandy runaway win, 3+ touchdowns. So it's a pass. Is it that simple for you too?
I mean, I'm not going to bet it just kind of because I don't want to be honest with you. But if you're in like a pool, like I would bet Vandy 100 out of 100 times before I bet Hawaii. You know, you say you don't trust Vandy to pull. I mean, they won this game 63-10 last year on the island. Now it's in Nashville. I like what Vandy's doing. I like what Clark Lee's building. You know, they have a harder schedule, so it might not show in the record. But like, I think Vanderbilt's better than they were last year. I think they're getting better. AJ Swan's back. And we mentioned it on our Mountain West preview. I don't think Hawaii did anything to improve or get better. So I do think Vandy probably runs away with this. I don't really kind of feel like betting it, but I'd bet them a hell of a lot faster than I bet Hawaii.
This next one on the card has an even bigger number. It is USC minus 30.5, 31, depending on your book. I don't know. This one kind of just, it's a question of motivation. So if we were a fly in the wall inside of those USC offseason meetings in their locker room, their spring game, like how did they emotionally handle losing that classic Cotton Bowl to Tulane? Do they view it as an embarrassment? Do they view how they finished the season, getting pushed around defensively against Utah in the Pac-12 title game as an insult? Or, do they kind of look at it as we can just roll out the helmets, we can roll out the Heisman Trophy winner and win this game by 24 points and just, go back to our apartments and sleep it off, because like they can do that. San Jose State does not have the defense. They do not have the D-line pressure and superstars that they really had the last 2 years. They do have some punch offensively. Chevan Cordero, he's the butt of our jokes leading into last season. He looks pretty solid throughout the year, and you got to figure against a USC defense that you got to prove it to me. You got to prove you can make open field tackles. I know Bear Alexander comes in on the D-line. Arguably, they should be better against the run, but there's two things that I remember him for last year. It was not being able to make tackles when it mattered and having incredible turnover luck in the first half of the season. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence, and I want to see it from USC. There's a live bet opportunity. I think if they come out with their hair on fire, mainly on defense, if they show they're physical, they have a different tone, maybe I'll jump in and lay a big number. But at this point, I'm just not interested.
Yeah, I bet USC. Colin Wilson wrote a really good piece over the summer about the biggest TARP mismatches in week 0. And he highlighted how USC returned 70% of their production on offense, obviously highlighted by Caleb Williams. And San Jose State returns just 35% on defense. They have to replace 2 of the last 3 Mountain West Defensive Players of the Year, in addition to a 3-time All-Conference linebacker. So I do like the Trojans here. I will say the more I kind of dug into San Jose State, obviously ended up playing a future on them. Cordero is my boy now. We mentioned our guys at the top. Cordero might be an honorable mention for that. I feel like me and him used to be budding rivals, and then now we're like when Kane and Undertaker come together as the Brothers of Destruction after their long feud. That's going to be me and Cordero this year, tearing up the Mountain West. So I'll be honest, if I had to rebet this today, I probably wouldn't take it, but I do have USC already in my pocket.
All right, let's look at the last game. Hammerin Hank Bachmeier has a new home in Ruston, taking on FIU. FIU returns more offensive line starts than just about anybody in Conference USA, 83.3%, 13 returning starters overall, including both specialists. Grayson James at quarterback. They're +6 in the net TARP. I guess I would lean that way. For a team like them, losing Tyrese Chambers to Maryland's their wide receiver, who was really their best perimeter weapon, if he was still there, I'd be a little bullish and I'd hop in here. Other than that, I just want to see, did La Tech fix their horrific defense? Can Bachmeier be effective and stay healthy, at least, through one game? Probably. But there's not a whole lot of sex appeal in this game. And like I said, I'm going to be focused more on the live opportunities in the late night game between San Jose State and USC. Anything interesting to you in this one?
Not really. This is one of those games where I started writing my notes without having a path and just kind of see where the road took me. And, it's week 0. I get it. There's only 8 games. If you're a true degenerate and you're like, I got to have game action on every game. As I was writing these notes, I don't have much thoughts on FIU. Great you mentioned it. James is back. I don't know or think he's necessarily good. I don't really have any thoughts on FIU. The more I kind of dug into La Tech, obviously I think Bachmeier's terrible if you listened to this pod before, but he's probably better than James. He's better than anyone the Bulldogs have last year. They have some nice pieces. Marquise Crosby, Squirrel Williams is electric. Smoke Harris is back, kind of a do-it-all dual wide receiver, kick returner. And you mentioned it, this defense was horrific. They added a ton of transfers, but it may take a few games for them to get gelling. If you want to bet every game, I probably would take the over in this game. I don't love FIU's offense per se, but the La Tech defense is so bad. Total of 59. I like what La Tech has on offense. They have exciting pieces. And the thing that I like about FIU to contribute to this is they're one of the most aggressive teams in the country in terms of going for it on fourth down, which last year led them to either win the game or lose by 100. So for an over's sake, maybe they go for it on fourth down, score a touchdown instead of a field goal, get you an extra 4 points, or they turn it over in La Tech territory, give them a short field, quick, Smoke Harris touchdown, run the score up a little bit. So if you want to play all 8 games, I would probably lean over in this, but I probably won't have any action in this one.
I think you talked me into the over there. I love Smoke Harris. He made our G5 All-American team. If you get a special teams touchdown, that's a huge, boost to your over chances. So if I'm having a good week 0, maybe I'll go ahead and sprinkle.
This is the last game of the night, right?
Yeah, it's the last game here.
Yeah, so all right. So after you cash your Ohio Jacksonville State parlay, throw a few shekels on this over and have yourself a good night.
This has been the BBOC podcast, the Group of 5 Deep Dive, presented by BetMGM. We will be back throughout the entire season. We have so much programming. Colin and Stuckey are actually going to do their Week 0 preview earlier this week, so it'll drop on your podcast feed on Thursday morning. And throughout the year, we're going to have the BCS with Brett McMurphy, Colin, Stuckey. We're going to have reaction shows. We're going to have the live Saturday show as well over on YouTube. You can follow us there. Please subscribe, comment, tell a friend, tell an enemy. You know how we do here. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Mike Calabrese. That's Mike Iannello. This has been the Group of 5 Deep Dive. Let's get some winners here in Week 0.